If we were going to talk about the major challenges in cybersecurity today, I think a common theme is that the industry is trying to catch up with innovation, and innovation, as always, is happening and as faster than cybersecurity can keep up with.
It's definitely not only technology trying to catch up with the needs, but also how processes can be also aligned. So like the volume of new regulations everywhere is increasing dramatically.
So you have to have a good inventory tracking what AI-enabled products are in your landscape, making sure that you can answer to the auditors, that you know exactly what data comes in, what data comes out, what decisions are made based on these AI models.
This is just compounding the issue. So, security is one lens, but the other lens is around trusting the data. So I know we'll get into that in a little bit.
Welcome to our On-Demand Cybersecurity Series. My name is Jose Peña, Director for North America with RSec Group, a global security partner of IBM. This is the first episode in a new content series created for CISOs, security leaders, and compliance professionals who make the tough calls under pressure. In this episode, you will hear from seasoned security experts from RSec, IBM, and Raíces Cyber, leaders who works hand-on with organizations navigating today's most urgent cybersecurity and compliance challenges in the era of AI and quantum computing. I would like to introduce Juan Giarrizzo. He is a member of the board for a really cool cybersecurity organization dedicated to improve the cybersecurity skills in North America and with a special focus in the Latin American community. Also, it's an honor to have Bob O'Connor, an executive, long experience in IBM. He's cybersecurity executive with global coverage. And today he's going to be along with Juan, sharing their perspective from clients, from companies, from the business, but also from the technology side of the things. Well, let's get started. And we want to start with a very open question for you, Juan, in terms of what you see, right, as the most common and important challenges in cybersecurity. And also if you can share also from the compliance perspective, which is a very hot topic these days. So financial institutions, healthcare, government, they need to comply with different type of regulations to protect the data, privacy data from citizens, users, and also patients, right? The work of in healthcare. Juan?
Thank you, Jose, and I'm very pleased to be here joining you in this conversation today. So if we were going to talk about the major challenges in cybersecurity today, I think a common theme is that the industry is trying to catch up with innovation, and innovation, as always, is happening and as faster than cybersecurity can keep up with. From the compliance perspective, specifically with AI products, is that we want to innovate at the same time that we remain compliant, specifically around privacy, our customers' privacy, and make sure that anything that is put into an AI-enabled product follows our regulations, specifically SEC, FINRA regulations, and all the frameworks that we have to follow being a financial institution. With that being said, trying to adopt AI, which sometimes you adopt it by default because sometimes your products that you already have in your environment get an AI component put into it and you need to catch up and detect it. The biggest challenge for our perspective, from my perspective, is just to put the regulatory framework around that innovation as it comes into your organization, and also be able to monitor the data that's being put into these models of these AI-enabled products, and make sure that you don't have an accidental disclosure of data that could constitute a breach, right? Because if you disclose PII data by accident, that is considered a data breach, right? So you want to make sure that your products and your data exchange are very well monitored and very well regulated.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. It's an additional challenge introducing AI technology because that can open new sources of vulnerabilities in order to protect the personal information. So from the technology perspective and providers, right? How do you see the market responding to these challenges?
Well, first, Jose, thanks for having me on. Pleasure being here today. So, number one, I would say I look at Juan and the role that CISO and security executives have to play. They've got a very challenging job. I think number one, you look at skills. We've talked about the cybersecurity, skills shortage, keeping the talent, et cetera, is number one challenge. So, but you look over the last 10 years, how much, it seems like there's always something new every year to the point of innovation that Juan mentioned. I look at call it the last 10 years with the journey to the cloud. IBM is very much involved with that, and we've made some significant strategic direction, like with Red Hat and now with HashiCorp that just came out. But specifically about moving to the cloud, this brings in a whole new challenge within a data governance perspective. So when Juan mentioned around PII and PCI data sprawls everywhere. So now when you think about the cloud of who's owner of that data, who's owner of that privileged users as far as having access to that data. So when you look at, from an IBM perspective, we look at it from not only a security lens perspective, but from a hybrid approach for all of our clients that are moving to the cloud, because we've got on-prem as well as in the cloud, structured, unstructured data. So when we think about this, we've really taken a step back from a cybersecurity perspective, looked at it more from a privileged user perspective. Who should have access? Your customers, your internal users, as well as third parties. And, from there, we're really looking at what access data should they have access to and the right posture management around that. That seems to be a hot buzz right now, obviously, with the whole discovery and classification of where your sensitive data is and potential vulnerabilities within, hybrid approach. So I just think about that. And then we add AI projects and AI and how that's infused into our technologies, as well as to how we have an agentic approach and how we can deliver better outcomes through chatbots and new applications through AI. So this is just compounding the issue. So, security is one lens, but the other lens is around trusting the data. So I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but I guess the point is with cybersecurity and related to the innovations going on, it's constantly changing. And the other, I guess, last buzzword I think I hear from technology vendors is the platform approach, because there are so many tools that Juan and executives have to manage to solve all these different problems.
Definitely, it's not that easy task, keeping the pace of the problems and also the vision and value proposition from providers, right? Of
Right.
technology. Really interesting what you mentioned, Bob. You need a end-to-end base first, right? And it's about having the data, the governance, and then how AI can be infused, right? So having a
Right.
team-based, established base gonna be a bit less challenge to adopt AI. So connected to that, so let's see if we can share a few examples from your own experience in your case, Juan, being in a CISO position or also working in response teams and also getting ready for compliance. So can you share a bit of some example use case and how in terms of processes or actions and then adoption of technology you had to lead?
Absolutely. So I think when we discussed AI adoption in my organization and what I've seen from other executives as well, the first thing that comes to mind is how to generate a policy or a framework that governs the use of AI in your organization. And there are several policies and several frameworks that you can take example from. For example, NIST risk management framework for AI. It's a semi-recent document that we can use as a reference, but put in the regulatory policies around AI and also the regulatory bodies internally. So you should have some sort of dedicated group of executives or engineers focused on the evaluation of new AI enabled products onboarding in your organization. So you should have some sort of a AI board or AI committee that you can direct purchase or acquisition of AI enabled products into your organizations for evaluation and documentation of that evaluation. Remember, when you are audited, you have to generate the evidence that there was a due process, a diligence being followed to onboard any products, and AI is not an exception for it. The other thing that we have done is to chase what is known as shadow AI, right? So sometimes you have products or your customers or your engineers are using AI products without telling you. So you have to have a good inventory tracking what AI-enabled products are in your landscape, making sure that you can answer to the auditors that you know exactly what data comes in, what data comes out, what decisions are made based on these AI models. That's another thing that we want to make sure that we document and we govern internally, because you don't want to run into the risk of people making has decisions that can have big consequences based on a defective model. So I will say putting in place your regulatory framework and then trying to track your inventory of AI enabled models and how they impact your business are probably the best two approaches and the initial approaches to have a successful AI strategy in an organization.
Thank you, Juan. So, as always, it's important to set the base, right, and be clear about the regulatory framework that needs to be followed. And then from there, all the use cases, right, whether it be AI or not, it's important to have well established then the data models and the mechanisms and technology are going to be connected. AI, as you say, definitely is one more sort of shadow technology, and I'm sure Bob also can share some examples of what he see in IBM's clients when they try to adopt, right, technology like IBM's and others to tackle these challenges. Anything you could share at that respect?
Yeah, no, I think from an AI perspective, kind of what we've seen over the last, I would say probably it's been interesting, even though it's, last couple of years. I mean, just in the last 6 months, I've seen a major difference because from a security perspective, I think the thing we've seen the most in the last 6 months is really clients have security tools in place. I think having a framework and a strategy like Juan mentioned is number one, because I think there's some reports out there from like AWS that only 20% of the AI projects that have actually gone into production. So having the right sponsorship framework in place is key number one. When those clients have those in place, then it's really trying to build out the foundation of, do they have the right data pipeline? Because the number one challenge with these AI projects is, the outcome of these applications are not trusted. So I think there's a number of studies, again, from executives that only 1/3 of the actual applications from AI are even trusted as part of an outcome. So what we're seeing is a lot of our clients taking a step back and looking at, doing the discovery and classifying of where their data is, going back to the move to the cloud, SaaS applications. Different business users have driven new use cases to meet customer demands or internal demands, drive better efficiencies, which is just compounded the problem. As far as, again, the number one asset within a company is your data. So identifying where your PCI, PHI, PII data within your enterprise for all the different applications, and then you add in unstructured, where, I know there's a study that unstructured data is growing at 3x to structured data. So when you take all of that in mind, you need to have that foundation and a strategy around how you build out your data pipeline. This is where I think the conversion from a data perspective, where you're seeing security as well as the governance and quality of the data, because I look at when you want to get into the AI governance, trust, security all becomes integrated as far as one, and who owns that within the enterprise is going to be different. But that kind of just shares some ideas of like what I've heard from multiple different clients across all industries.
It's definitely not only technology trying to catch up with the needs, but also how processes can be also aligned. And now, so like the volume of new regulations everywhere is increasing dramatically. We think in the case of North America, and we see countries like Canada having a compliance regulation for every province, right? So Quebec, different now than Alberta and British Columbia and Toronto. And here in US, New York is driving, right, to a few frameworks, and then HIPAA with everything held, and California. So that's for one side. And then for others, as we say, the companies of the different groups trying to innovate and using different models of AI, ChatGPT, or then on their OpenAI or Google option for Amazon, etc. So it's like the perfect storm, like a intersection of too many things, and the main goal is to keep the data secure, right, and protect the asset of the company is more and more every time it's challenged. So, well, that's the current situation and some of the examples and best practices, right, that Juan and Bob had seen in their particular experience. Let's try now to talk about the future, right? So, in terms of what the gap that we still see and how technology is trying to catching up, your expectation or maybe some of your dreams. So, what would you like to see in the short term and maybe in the longer term, how technology can support? Because we haven't talked about things like quantum either, and every year now is potential of huge attack could happen in any moment, right? In every of the next 3-4 years. So quantum as well should be something that maybe we can talk a bit in this section. So let's talk about the future. What expectations you have? What would you like, right? The providers to come back with what and what you think also maybe you have some perspective on quantum.
So I think we are in a very disruptive era. A good friend of mine once used the phrase that I always repeat, which is blink at your own risk. I think in that disruption, we tend to forget the basic principles of security and the basic principles of good infrastructure. And what I would like to see is innovation being done responsibly and secure, which is a big ask to the industry. So I'm looking forward to the disruption and see new products based not only with AI, but also in quantum computing. When we start seeing chips leveraging quantum computing, we're going to see a new era of cryptography. We're going to see our current cryptographic algorithms being shattered. So we're going to have to rethink how we protect and how we encrypt our data. And that makes me hopeful, but also it makes me not fearful, but I hope that we can leverage that two things in parallel. So we think of AI as a model or an algorithm, but we tend to forget that it's simply an application that runs on an infrastructure. So if you see how it gets exploited, most of the time is basic application exploitation. We're moving too fast and we're forgetting to close the doors behind. So what I would like to see is that the disruption happens, but also that the frameworks and regulations and the professionals around this innovation are also securing the products for better user experience and also most safe products and data protection.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. This is the minimum, right? We need, otherwise this gonna be unmanageable, and the impact can be so high that maybe that gonna put on hold a lot of projects, right? Because so nobody has a certainty what could happen, right? When you open so many Pandora boxes, has so many new innovation. So hopefully we can have a way to go doing in the right phase with the right measures and keeping as well the responsibility factor, right? Part of the equation. Well, what do you see, Bob, mid short term and let's say mid or long term in the future?
Sure. I mean, I think in the short term, I think we're IBM, we're infusing security into all of our products. And, obviously taking a hybrid approach, an open approach. We're looking how we can automate more within our capabilities. And I think, I'm part of the data security division, and we believe, from a data perspective, it's the number one asset for a client. So that's kind of IBM's point of view. I mean, I think from a market perspective, I think a lot of it has to do with, you hear platform a lot because there are a number of different security tools out there. So I think IBM is really focused in on how we can provide, again, better security and compliance and governance around your data as well as your users. And that kind of goes back to my earlier comments around posture management, identifying, because there's a lot of, I think we're building onto our capabilities because our data portfolio of products have been around for 10 plus years. A number of the large banks, healthcare companies have been leveraging it from a compliance standpoint. And now with the emergence of all the applications moved to the cloud, this kind of drives new behavior around how do I secure from a cloud security perspective. So how do you integrate and leverage these different tools into a platform approach? And then I think really from a data perspective, how do you apply, there's a number of different data tools as well. When you talk about governance and compliance, there are security tools and there's also some data quality tools that are all kind of tying into the same messaging. IBM sees where all this is going to come together where we can differentiate ourselves. So that's kind of in the short term, and in how you clients can leverage what they have and build upon that with going back to leveraging AI to help automate and make better decisions, integrate different capabilities. And then you have the emergence of new technologies like crypto. That'll be very interesting. It's going to happen over the next couple of years. I know a number of, I would say, financial institutions are obviously looking at that, really looking at regulatory requirements, are going to be looking into building out a strategy. We work with a number of clients for that today. So kind of short-term platform open, how to leverage more, and then two, how can you build a plan for these new emerging technologies like quantum?
Yeah, well, hopefully the platform promise can help with that, right? Because having several teams working now together and enabling technology over the same platform, that should help. And hopefully also the regulatory framework can be embedded or the platform adapted, right, to serve, to support that framework. And you both have mentioned the inventory aspect. So inventory of that shadow technology, inventory of AI experiments, inventory of cryptography, right? Methods that are embedded in all the applications. So hopefully there is with the platform paradigm, right? Hopefully can be more manageable, those inventories, discovery, and trying to act automatically on those specific source of potential new vulnerabilities. And I would like, before finishing, I would like to go back to one of your comments, Bob, at the beginning when we were talking about the trends. Let's talk a bit about the skills, right? Because so with all this, it's a race technology catching up or bringing new technology or new advance, and then customers also need to catch up, right? To try to adopt things to resolve their problem. And then how do you see the skills, right? In terms of the people, if we're gonna narrow that to US, right? How do you see the skill status and situation? And of course, Juan, you coming from an organization like Raices Cyber. So one of the main goals of this organization is to contribute to close those skill gaps, right? And you share a bit about the vision, and if you can share some data about how the skill problem is these days, right? The skill gaps and some of the actions you guys do in the organization.
So Raices Cyber is a nonprofit organization that basically would focus mainly on upskilling people from underrepresented communities, mainly Hispanics, with anybody that is interested in doing a career change or break into cyber will have a opportunity with us. So one of the things that we have, how we approach this is, first of all, taking down the myth that you need a college degree to be a cybersecurity professional. I think that it's important to encourage people that if you are curious and you want to work and you have a passion for technology, you already have a leap into the path into cybersecurity. The other thing that we do a lot is to provide free training, cohorts, mentoring. Many of us are involved in one-on-one relationship with other mentees. So when we find somebody that is really passionate about cybersecurity, we provide them tools such as, let's just make a professional plan for the year. Where do you want to be at the end of the year, right? So it's that relationship of lowering the barriers, because people has the preconception that they need to have degrees to break into the field. That's the beginning of the journey. And then after that, mentoring and training in making training accessible to everybody is the rest, right? That's how you continue empowering people to break into cybersecurity or by any means any professional field.
That's a really, really critical and beautiful, I would say, as well, mission, right? And helping underrepresented communities and also filling that gap. There is a mental or maybe a predisposition gap, right? That you need to have that college degree and master degree. And then finally, so if we can, I would say the market gonna get a lot of benefit if we can target those audience, and then they can provide the skills, they can participate on the implementation. And there is a huge amount of people in that segment, right? And they are hungry of knowledge. And if we can make easier at least simple the way to consume those knowledge, right? The content, and then mentorship is key. I definitely can contribute to addressing all these challenges. From technology perspective and providers, you see activity around that aspect as well. So of course, companies, providers, they focus in training their own clients, right? Reducing the gaps and give them doing the skill transfer necessary, right? To administrate and manage the technology. Technology provider can contribute more, can do more to try to fill those skill gaps.
So from IBM, we obviously have an early professional hire program. I can't go into too much details on that from my role, but I know from a skills gap perspective, that's obviously where I work with companies like yourself, RSec, to help our clients in that. And that's really understanding the client where they are as far as a resource and skills perspective as it relates to our product as well as just a security strategy. But I would say from a skills gap perspective, we look to partners to help us. We do have skilled resources around our IBM products, but it's more so focused on helping deliver outcomes to our clients so they can value from what they purchased. But really, as far as building out a strategy, whether it's cybersecurity or other domains, we look to partners like yourself to help with that skill gap.
For sure. And well, we are together in this. So for our audience and the people that is viewing this way, that is important to know that yes, so we are together in this. We want to contribute to fill these gaps and get people ready to adopt new technologies, ready to not only learn about AI, but how to apply that to different segments, including cybersecurity. And when it comes to react to quantum technology, so I know IBM has been doing a lot of education enablement, producing content, materials, videos everywhere. So it's a mancomunated job, right? It's an initiative that you're putting together efforts from organizations like Raices Cyber and others and providers like IBM. We can make it happen. Well, now to finalize, I will just give you guys a few minutes for your final message. So share whatever you want in terms of your vision, advice, right? Or maybe summarize the best practices from your own perspective, client, and technology. And then we're going to be ready to go. Juan, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Jose. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I think that my largest takeaway from the cybersecurity perspective and innovation perspective is do not let the hunger for implementing a new product compromise your integrity and your resilience as an organization. I think that it's a constant battle that we have in the cybersecurity field because we are cybersecurity professionals. We're enablers of innovation, never an obstacle. But we have to provide the guardrails. And I hope that we get to a point that we are able to innovate and regulate at the same speed, right? And I can see that there's a lot of efforts being done by major companies trying to build this framework because when you provide a product with a framework around, reduces the risk and facilitates the adoption for the customer.
Well, as a vendor, at the end of the day, we want our customers to gain value out of whatever they have purchased. So, the number one thing, times change, people change. Hold us accountable. I mean, I've been with IBM for a number of years, 20 plus years. And where I've seen the most value back to clients is where IBM understands a client's business problems just as well as they do because we have that relationship. Challenge IBM on how we can help you with your 2025 and 2026 challenges in projects. And challenge us on how they're using the technology today. Are you leveraging all of the capabilities? Are you aware of all the capabilities forthcoming? So we have, obviously health checks and things like that, but at the end of the day, IBM is going to check how many support calls have you had. We're going to look into how you're leveraging the product because at the end of the day, we are looking to see how you gain the most value and continue using the product, getting the most value out of it. So that'd be my coach back is, as the vendor, we just want to make sure that you're leveraging all the capabilities and are going to continue using it and most importantly, solving your business problems.
Thank you so much. From our perspective in RSec Group, we would like to share that we are ready to help, right, together with IBM as a provider and also listen, right, to clients and organizations like the ones represent and interacting right with clients, companies, students as well, or those specialists right that are trying to get some opportunity in the cybersecurity market. We are ready to help. It's important to assess current situation to assess the posture depending on what specific projects, right, as a client they are executing. So whether it be data, protecting the data, or protecting the applications, the mobile applications, or protecting the cloud access, loss prevention. So there are so many fields, but it's important to assess, and definitely RSec along with IBM can help to assess, running this assessment, finding the gaps, the best practices versus the compliance, and producing right a very detailed report of recommendations, actions to take, and potentially a roadmap of projects to implement. And of course, we can help companies to evaluate existing technologies, evaluate products like IBM Guardian platform, right, to provide all these type of protection. But at the end of the day, as Juan and Bob is saying, so it's not only about the technology, it's how we can advise and support the customer to, if they don't have a regulatory governance model in place, how to help them to do that. If they don't have a data protection program still running, how to help them to do that. And then having these mechanisms, these protocols, these models running, then implementing the technology should be more effective, right? Because it's going is direct to what need to be managed, protected, and finally provided to the end user. So I really want to thank you again, Juan Giarrizzo, to join a board of a member of the board of Raices Cyber, and also a lot of experience as a CISO, as a hacker, and had represented a well-known personality in the cyber security space here in the United States, and Bob, years of experience in IBM, and now as executive as a data security. We are here. We're going to provide some more information to contact the speakers and also to learn more about Raíces Cyber and IBM and RSec. So stay tuned for our next episode in this roundtable series where we put together experts from the market and also providers to try to understand what's going on and how to best serve those that need more and more cybersecurity solutions and help in general. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye bye.